Thank you to the organizers, GH2 India, for having us here today, and a very warm good evening to all of you. The topic for today's session is establishing green fuel markets for maritime, which goes to the heart of the energy transition challenge. Unlike many other sectors, decarbonizing shipping is not just about adopting a new technology. It's about building an entirely new fuel markets right from the ground up. Green fuels for maritime, whether it's hydrogen, whether it's ammonia, biofuels, it all requires more than a demand from ship owners. I mean, we ourselves are ship owners, so we understand where this context comes from. They require coordinated action across multiple verticals, right from fuel production, port infrastructure, safety frameworks, regulations, pricing mechanisms, so on and so forth. So today's conversation essentially is relevant to the Indian context. India has very strong fundamentals in place, growing port capacity, expanding renewable energy, strategic trade routes, increasing policy focus on decarbonization. And today's question, essentially, or the key question before us is not about the ambition. I think the ambition's been quite clear throughout the day today, and we've seen that across policies. But I think the cornerstone question here is how do we move from pilots and intent to commercial viability or commercially viable and scalable green fuel projects. And my role today will essentially be to keep this discussion focused more on practicality, sequencing and execution so that we move beyond talking about just concepts and into what can realistically be delivered over the next coming decade. So on that note, may I invite my fellow panelists to join me on stage. Can I invite Mr. Sanjay Nagrare, President, Ocior Energy. Mr. Anuj Sharma, CEO, Waaree Clean Energy Solutions Private Limited. Mr. Anirudh Saraswat, co-founder, Oriana Power. Mr. Prakash Chandra, Director, Fleet Management Limited. And Ms. Tanja, Ebbe, Dalgaard, Chief Impact Officer, MMMCZCS. When we were talking about this, we thought we'll structure the conversation essentially on 5 parameters. So essentially, that gives you a context. There's only 5 questions. But that said, it's important for us to kind of understand, basis the conversation we've had throughout the day. And we've discussed multiple things. Today we've discussed technology, we've discussed policy infrastructure. But if I can start off with a question to you, Tanja. Today we've discussed technology, we've discussed policies, we've discussed infrastructure, and what the market is today. What's the one missing element that isn't getting the kind of traction or the attention so far, but could be the make or break when we talk about green maritime fuel transition?
Well, I would say, I know it has been mentioned so many times by now, but I would like to say again that the one thing that is needed is demand certainty. So we definitely need the ship owner, cargo owners and charterers to commit to long-term off-take agreement. That is the one thing that will make the trick here. So if there is a magic wand, that is the one. But I would like to mention shortly just 2 others because we need to see collaboration along the value chain that we have never seen before. We need the risk sharing, we need standardized contracts, we need people to work together. And that's what we are seeing the value of in the Green Corridor that was just discussed. So unprecedented collaboration is needed. It's not great fun to have a methanol or ammonia ship if you cannot bunker it, if you cannot produce it, if you cannot handle it on board. So we need that collaboration. And the final thing that I would say that haven't received a lot of attention today is the workforce and the upskilling of the workforce and the overall just and equitable discussion. We made a survey among seafarers around ammonia. We asked them, okay, so ammonia is toxic. Would you sail on an ammonia ship? We did that with thousands of seafarers, and I think 90% of them said, yes, with proper training and standards, we would sail on it. But we need the investment also in upskilling our seafarers. So I would say demand, alignment across the value chain, and the social license and just transition are the elements that we need to take into consideration.
Which is a lovely point that you made in terms of training and development, because that workforce obviously needs to exist to allow that industry to grow. We often say in shipping that if global shipping were a country, it would most probably be among the top 10 emitters in the world. So it's very important that we look from a shipping perspective to decarbonize it. So thank you, Tanja, for laying that context really well. And it clears the intent, it kind of established that the intent does exist across those points. But the question now is how we actually translate that into actual fuel availability, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So with that, that gives me segue into my next question. I would like that to be pointed towards Mr. Sanjay. Mr. Sanjay, so we're now talking about critical years. And looking at 2026, this particular year specifically, what needs to happen to keep this momentum going, right? Should it be project specific? Should it be FIDs? I know it's a conversation between FIDs and VGFs. Policy announcements, is there anything left for us to announce? Is there corridor launches? What would indicate success versus what would indicate stalling?
I think the most important elephant in the room is basically we need to have mandates, mandates which are enforceable for usage of low carbon fuels in the shipping industry. I think that is the most important thing which needs to happen. Once that happens, like everything else is going to fall in place. Like in terms of projects, you have suppliers basically who are ready, not only in India, but across the world in different geographies. You have people who are ready with projects. I'm not saying that they are ready with projects today. These are long gestation projects. So you need to act now so that in next 3 years or 2.5 years, you have the basically molecules ready. But before they basically make that investment and get the projects on ground, you need to have a bankable project. Yeah. Bankable project means the off-taker has to be on board. Off-taker has to be on board means there has to be a clear regulatory mechanism for usage of these fuels in the shipping industry. I think it's an interplay of various elements.
Absolutely,
which need to come together for us to succeed in this industry. That's how I would put it.
Would you agree if I was to say that if this year was all about de-risking first, hard, like de-risk it really hard, and then we have an established pipeline and we have a hard established timeline, would that help in terms of establishing what this year would look like in terms of taking things to the next level?
Absolutely. Like that gives a certainty to developers like us to, basically actually get those projects on ground.
Yeah.
There's a certainty in terms of offtake. It's not only for us, it is for the shipping industry as well as basically the people who are going to consume it. They also have to be ready because if you're using a more expensive fuel, obviously the shipping rates might go up a little bit. Yep. They also need to basically adjust to those things. So I think the timelines with well-defined timelines with properly defined mandates and standards, I think that is the need of the hour.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sanjay. And I'll come back to you in just a minute. But if I can move on very quickly to Anuj. Now, investments, right? We're all about investments at one point. And there's always this question when it comes to investments in terms of how do you de-risk the possibility of the investment risk. So for investors watching this particular space, what signal should ideally trigger them to move from monitoring the market to actually investing into the market? And what are those de-risking elements that we need for this particular sector?
Thanks. So I would say, from an investor point of view, I will continue to watch till the time I see a clear, bankable business case. That's the first thing. Now for the investor to move from monitoring to actual investments, what you need, I think the fellow panelists have very clearly stated, is a firm offtake, and that has to come from the regulations. The IMO guidelines have to be there. There has to be mandates on the fleet owners in terms of the CO2 emission reduction. This is something very important, which is on the global basis. In the meantime, there could be some kind of a regional mandates or a country-specific mandates for converting certain percentage of maritime fuels to e-fuels. These are things which needs to happen. And the moment this happens, the guaranteed offtakes, long-term offtakes come into picture, and the investors will be willing to invest. I think, from an appetite point of view, intent point of view, the industry is willing to invest. Obviously, what they are looking for is a guaranteed offtake. And I would say, a few other things which I just want to add. This is obviously about e-fuels, but from a port perspective, different things could be done. One is obviously you are talking about the regional shipping corridors, but few smaller things. Let's say conversion of the tugboats itself, which is small thing. That also gives confidence, and also it's moving from very small pilots to a commercial stuff, and then really scaling it big. So converting tugboats onto hydrogen or any kind of e-fuel, smaller requirements, but meaningful requirements, or converting the entire port from where you have obviously huge amount of cargo getting shipped even on the surface. Can these be converted onto green hydrogen? That again builds the entire ecosystem. People keep talking about, yes, ammonia is a very proven technology. Methanol is a very proven technology. Obviously, you're talking about gray, but connecting the dots with the renewable or a green hydrogen, that's what the challenge is. Now, few smaller steps, as I said, tugboats or surface transport at the port level also gives a huge amount of confidence, to the industry, to the investors that yes, these technologies are working. So there should not be any problem as you scale up onto large e-fuel projects as well.
Thanks, and it's a very good point about the green tugs. Last year we saw a monumental push for electric tugs as a transitionary piece, and you've seen multiple tenders being floated for electric tugs across India. As a matter of fact, the electric tug policy clearly dictates how that needs to. So hopefully in the near future we see a mandated hydrogen tug policy, if it's probably one in the pipeline already. So thank you so much, Anuj, for that. Now coming to timelines, and maybe honest timelines is probably the question here. Prakash, you've traveled all the way from Hong Kong to join us today. You're in the business of obviously managing fleets of vessels. Forget about all the aspirational targets we've spoken about today, right? When do you honestly see green maritime fuels achieving that 5% market share? Is it next year? Is it 2030? Is it 35, 40? Give us your perspectives.
Thank you. Just to bring my talk into perspective, I just wanted to say that we are operating more than 600 ships in the management. From India, we are controlling 27,000 crew. Out of 600, we have 61 ships which are dual fuel. They are not all green, but LNG, LPG, methanol, and ammonia ready ships. We already are controlling right now. So we have infrastructure for training, and we have the coordination with the suppliers worldwide, including China. We are working very closely, and India, we are looking very, looking like a hawk at India right now, with Sumitomo with us, Ship Management, Shipping. They all are looking at India, MOL, to offtake the cargoes which are coming. So looking at the production line and the usage infrastructure, we all say 20, 35%. But practically, honestly, we see 2035 when we'll have regulations in place, infrastructure, production, and production line in place. Then we look at 5% use in 2035, not before. We all dream for 2030, but it's not going to happen. So that is what I look at, 5% use. And, to bring in perspective what I look for India, I've been worldwide doing this from last 2021 when we started Ammonia Consortium with Central and Mærsk. A lot of energy I see here today. One thing I did not listen to was looking at the timeline. That is what we have prepared. Ammonia tanks, if you're going to place, where? Because we are facing a lot of resistance worldwide for ammonia storage tank. Be it Singapore, be it Hong Kong, Japan, US. There's a lot of resistance. Only I don't see resistance is Antwerp, Rotterdam, and Amsterdam. They are well prepared. They have lines. So in India, we all talk of such large volume of ammonia, green ammonia. So that is the main hindrance I see, that how the regulations are going to come in place to, regulate these ammonia storage tanks. And then will come supply to the ships or bunkering regulation. In Singapore, it took us 3 years to prepare the ammonia TR, and the 2027 end is the target from Singapore government to start Singapore bunkering in Singapore. Complete infrastructures, we're doing. We are partners with them. We are making 2 ammonia bunkering vessels now. And that is the timeline we took from 21 to 27, 6 years in Singapore, which is #1 bunkering hub in the world. Now we're talking of India, which is going to be a potential bunkering port, especially I have been attending, India's Singapore Maritime Week, and Government of India and Singapore working very closely with the Green Corridor and with our green energy, renewable energy available on the East Coast. That is one of the best thing which we have developed. And I see it's going to happen soon. I'm very positive. I see a lot of energy today here.
Prakash ji, if I can redirect a follow-up question to that, given you're from the fleet management perspective, and it's also something that is of interest for me because, I come from a group that operates one of the largest fleet of drilling vessels in the country. When it comes to decarbonizing within the shipping industry, we keep talking about new vessels coming out, new engine protocols, methanol-powered blending, all those things. But what do we do with the existing fleet? Because there is an issue, especially if I'm correct, there is, I think, a demarcation on engines up to 2016 that can likely not be converted. So anything before 2016 essentially will have to be something else. So how do we enable that decarbonization? Because if you look at majority of the vessels that operate in this country today, especially the ones that charter a lot of the goods and cargo, they are probably running on engines that are pre-2016. So what would be the ideal stepping stone for us to decarbonize that industry as a whole?
Only biodiesel. We have worked with everything. There is no solution. Only biodiesel, only on the 4-stroke engine. 4-stroke Wärtsilä engines, some engines, you can inject up to 25% of hydrogen without modification. Some of the Wärtsilä engines. So that is the only solution, not on Yanmar, not on this. So that's a challenge, and they will have to pay for the carbon tax or phase out. There is no other option.
So either transition to biodiesel or pay the carbon tax.
Phase out.
So that is interesting because in shipping, changing the fuel has a much bigger decarbonization angle than changing the vessel. Because changing the vessel, then the timeline and the cost that's involved is so huge when you compare it to actually changing the fuel. And if that's the way forward in terms of biodiesel as a stepping stone for decarbonization, then that would be the right approach. Thank you, Prakash. Sorry, were you going to add something else?
No.
Okay, thank you. If I could just very quickly move on. Now, talking about it from an Indian context, right? Especially given the conversation we've had all day today, the ecosystem in India, and the role India plays within the green hydrogen global ecosystem. What's India's unique role in this? Especially from a global transition point of view, that no other country can play as effectively as India can. And are there areas where you think India should lead against where India should follow? And can I direct that to you, Anirudh?
Nice question. Finally, India's perspective. What's unique in India? So we have cheap manpower. We have cheapest power. As far as policy regulations are concerned, still we are having one of the cheapest power. We can provide cheap e-methanol. We can provide cheap ammonia, green ammonia to the world. That is the situation. And one more thing, what I see, I think. We have one of the highest tariffs from US as of now. Yep. Somebody is talking about 500%, 250%. So that is the opportunity. What was happening with oil with India. Now, like Mc-Kinney said, we are on the menu. We are not on the table, right? So this is high time for us to be on the table, not on the menu. And with e-fuels, what I see, you can change this current deficit thing. See, it's not about profitability anymore. You need energy independence. That is more important than anything else. Otherwise, arm twisting is there. Everywhere around the world, every global power is doing it right now. We don't have another option now. So this is unique, na? We don't have option. If we don't have option and if we'll try to build, like ma'am said, we'll try to build, she was talking about ecosystem, we need complete ecosystem. We just need to push policies to that level. It's high time now. Whatever middle countries are doing, they are looking for safe hands, and India is that country. You can bank on it. So that is unique. So you have to do it right now. Otherwise, China will do it again. That's it.
It's rightfully said about the middle power, because over the last couple of days we've been hearing quite extensively about the middle power equation. That said, if I can just open this question up to my fellow panelists as well. What makes India unique to the current context of things, given the global geopolitical situation, given where we are in the ecosystem with hydrogen? Where are we, and what is our role within this? If I can just expand that to the rest of the panel. May I start with you?
Sure. So, I think I would just highlight a few points. India's unique position. Obviously, one is a very stable political leadership within the country. So there is a clear direction in terms of what our ambitions, intents are on the green hydrogen space. That's one. Second, I would say is a very stable relationships, with various countries. That matters quite a lot when you are talking about long-term, supplies of fuels. Third, I think some of the points were already covered. Competitiveness with respect to the renewable energy and a vast potential of renewable energy in India, be it solar, be it wind, we have it all, or be it hydro as well. You talk about the skilled manpower. I think you talk about all the technology companies, they have their largest engineering offices and the capability centers in India. So we do have the skilled manpower available. You talk about the cost of labor as well, or cost of producing goods here. It is one of the most competitive in the world. So I think we have all of these things where we can tick mark, which are extremely important for any country to be a global supplier of green hydrogen and its derivatives. So that's clearly a unique position. The other important aspect is adopting and improvising these technologies as well. I think we are very good at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That adds to it. One of your questions was where we should lead and not follow. Is, I would say, investments into research and development so that we can really take these technologies clearly a notch up and really be the global leader on that.
That's a beautiful point mentioned. So invest into research, development, technology, build the technology in house, and then scale that up. So not just follow the trail of technologies globally. Tanja, if I can pose that question to you from a perspective of Mærsk, where do you see what do you see India's role when it comes to decarbonizing the shipping industry, and from an overall green hydrogen perspective as well, please?
Well, India has really a lot of the required things that is needed to do this. So I think India can play a role on scale, cost and location, because there's a unique role to be played, both of cost competitive workhorse meant in the best possible way of green maritime fuel, because it combines both massive renewable potential, a large industrial base, as well as a strategic geography on the key east-west trade routes. So for me, India can become a major producer and bunkering hub of green fuels in the future, because you have these three elements: scale, cost, and location, which is super unique. So I think we'll see a lot of things happening in India over the coming years.
The geographical location plays a very key or important role in this. Thank you, Tanja. If I may also pose the same question to you, Anuj sir. What, according to you, would be India's unique role in this particular sector? Oh, sorry, Prakash, my bad, sorry.
If you ask me, in fact, like Anuj captured it very well. Like, sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Anuj captured it very well. I think most of the things are there. But a couple of things I'll go slightly deeper. Cost of renewable energy, when we say, and if you really adjust the cost of renewable energy which is produced in India for, the cost of capital and the interest rate, like it is one of the lowest in the world. Middle East might look basically cheaper than us, but then you need to adjust these two critical things. Once you do that, India is at this moment producing one of the cheapest renewable energy. Added to that, you have a very well developed ecosystem for renewable energy in India. And renewable energy is the key ingredient when we talk about these green molecules. The manpower, the trained manpower which is there in India, it's well geared to basically address these opportunities. And the innovation, yes, we need to invest in R&D basically to make world-class products. But at the same time, in India we call it Jugaad. In India, that's a very strong, that's basically innovation at a operational level. So over here, now that we are developing these projects, we are developing 3 projects for green hydrogen. There's so many operational innovations which I see in these projects. These are not straightforward projects, but you see a lot of innovative ideas coming in terms of DC coupling, in terms of the way the electrolyzers are being used, in terms of how the renewable energy, the variance throughout the day, how that is being addressed. So there's a lot of innovation which is going in there. I think these 2 things, coupled with the fact that we are a democracy which basically has stable long-term vision in terms of what it wants to do, both in terms of strategically, geopolitically, as well as the policies within India. That gives a lot of confidence to me that, what we saw in telecom or what we saw in energy, the same kind of an investor interest I see in India as far as the green molecules are concerned.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's all the questions I had for today. However, you do want to make a point.
I just want to make one point, slightly different, not covered in your questions. But, in terms of playing a unique role, another important thing, both from a developer point of view as well as from an off-taker point of view, is creation of a local ecosystem which is also very cost competitive. And I think, this is something, there is obviously a tendency for any developer, to reduce the cost. The immediate benefits are you buy some of these equipments, technology from outside the country, neighboring countries particularly. Now, instead of that, if these investments or these equipments are being taken locally, it is going to aid the industry to come up extremely fast, scalability will get reached, and the cost competitiveness also will get reached. And I'm talking specifically, let's say, you are talking about rectifiers or electrolyzers, each of these things, these should also be, procured locally. If that happens, then the industry will develop extremely fast and be self-sustaining, extremely competitive as well. And this is just a message to both the developers as well as the off-takers. If they insist on this, from a long-term point of view, this is going to be significantly impactful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Point well made over there. But let me just take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you. I think the biggest takeaway from today's conversation has been that green fuels will scale, not through just ambition alone, but through obviously bankable models like we were mentioning about, clear policy signals and collaboration across the entire value chain that's required in this country. So on that note, thank you so much for your time and for joining us today. And all the very best in all your endeavors.
I would like to...
Anirudh, you wanted to add one last point?
I would like to thank Dashant for this whole symposium and all those stuff, because we are here to build ecosystem. Investors are ready to invest, obviously. So even everybody is doing their bit. So thanks a lot to you for bringing this
Thanks,
ecosystem
Anirudh.
together.
Thank you, Nishant.
Yeah.
and
Try
thank
and
you,
do our
GH2.
best. Thanks very much. And if I can welcome Mr. Bala on stage to facilitate the speakers, please.